Hi everyone, Megan here, and today I have a video that I'm very excited about. I am going to be comparing the BBC/PBS 2017 version of Little Women with the 1994 version of Little Women. So, first of all, there will be spoilers for Little Women. Lots and lots and lots of spoilers. So, you are warned. Let's see here. The links to both movies, the links to the trailers of both movies will be linked below, just in case you're confused, which version I'm talking about. So the 1994 version stars Winona Ryder, Christian Bale, and Kirsten Dunst. The 2017 version stars Maya Hawke, Emily Watson, Angela Lansbury's in there. So yeah, there's a lot of great actors in both these versions. I grew up watching the 1994 version. I knew it by heart. I knew all the characters so well. I knew everything about it. I think I watched that version first before I read the book, but I have read the book multiple times since first seeing the 1994 version. I just rewatched the 1994 version today so that I am fresh and clear on it. And I had just recently seen the 2017 version, the BBC one. I had been wanting to see it for ever since it came out, ever since I saw the first trailer. I was like, I need to see that. But somehow I missed it when it was on TV, and somehow I just didn't watch it until about a month ago, or maybe it was a few weeks ago. So now I have watched it multiple times, so I know both versions quite well. So I had a lot of thoughts on both versions that I wanted to share. So just for clarification, moving forward now, I will be calling the two versions the 1994 version and the 2017 BBC. And the reason why I'm calling it the 2017 BBC and not just 2017 is because there's also a 2018 version, which is a modern retelling, and in 2019 we are getting another version of Little Women, which I am also very excited about. But for now, we're just going to talk about these two versions. I love both of these versions. If I watch them multiple times, it means that I love them. Now the thing is, the BBC 2017, it is 3 hours long because it is a mini-series, whereas the 1994 version is 2 hours. So it means that the 2017 was able to put more in. So that is a big plus for the 2017 version. We're going to talk about Jo. Jo, one of my favorite literary characters of all time. In the BBC 2017, she is played by Maya Hawke. Now, I really liked Maya Hawke. I thought she had a voice that really suited Jo. Her demeanor really suited Jo. My one thing about it is that it seemed that from the beginning, Jo already seemed like she was the Jo of the end of the book, that she had already learned all these lessons. She already seemed quite mature and well-grounded, and she was very passionate, but she didn't seem like an overly angry person. So that was my one thing, is that I wish we would have seen more growth with Maya Hawke. Now, with Winona Ryder's version of Jo, at the beginning she's brash, she's immature, she's angry. All Jo's faults are shining clearly, but she grows into a strong, capable woman, and we still get to see that she's a bit, not exactly proper. Near the end of the 1994 version, she's covered in flour, and so it's like we still see glimpses of the old Jo, which I really do like a lot. Now, I do want to make one note about the modern retelling version that came out in 2018. That Jo is extremely angry. She is angry about everything, to the point that I wonder how Professor Bhaer and Laurie could even be in love with her, because she's so angry. Whereas in the 2017 version, the BBC version, her anger is dialed back a little too far, in my opinion. So I think Winona Ryder in the 1994, her anger has a good balance. For example, one situation that I think Winona Ryder does a great job in showing Jo's anger is when she's angry at Amy's abusive teacher. She says, "I just want to strangle that man," and she's really angry, but it's a righteous anger, and it's a protective anger. It's really beautiful to see, actually. There's one point in the BBC 2017 version where Laurie kisses Jo. This is way before he proposes, years before he proposes. And her reaction is to completely freeze. She doesn't move, she doesn't kiss him back, she doesn't pull away, she doesn't do anything. She does not respond, she does not recoil. Now, I think that's just a little bit unrealistic because Joe is a very active person. She's a fighter. She just reacts. She doesn't think about what she's doing. She just reacts. So I think there would be an instinctive moment of, you know, backing away or just like, yeah, that recoil. So we didn't see that. And so that just seemed a little bit un-Joe-ish to me. And it's like, yeah, she might have not wanted to respond because she really cares about Laurie. Like, he's her brother basically, and she doesn't want to hurt him. But even if you don't want to hurt someone so bad, you can still have that instinctive reaction of, whoa, what's going on here? Okay, another thing I wanted to say in praise of Winona Ryder is that during the proposal scene, when Laurie is proposing to Joe, watch her face because it is so expressive. She is reacting so specifically and instinctively to every thought she's saying. Like, he mentions, I can take care of your family, and oh, she has a breath out, like, oh my goodness, that would be a dream come true. That's exactly what I want, to be able to care for my family. And then he says, you wouldn't even have to write. And she kind of has this moment of like, what? I want to write. It's not that I have to write. So it's just like her thoughts are just reflecting, like her face is just reflecting her thoughts so quickly, just rapid fire. So you can tell she's really listening to her scene partner. And you know, it's not that I thought, oh wow, as I'm watching this scene, Winona Ryder is acting this beautifully. My thought was, wow, like I was just right there tracking with Joe. And then when the scene ended, I went, I was tracking with Joe so hard because Winona Ryder was acting that so beautifully. Another aspect that was very interesting to me is that the hair in this show. So in the BBC 2017 version, Joe's hair is extremely long and extremely scraggly, and this is called her one beauty. And there have been some complaints that how's that beautiful? It's not beautiful, it's quite ugly. Well, beauty standards were just different back then. So her hair is so long, like that was a beautiful thing. And it would have been realistic that it would have been scraggly. We don't all have to have like blunt ends back then. So when she does get her hair chopped off, and it's such a bad haircut, like in the 1994 version, Winona Ryder's haircut is not nearly as bad as this in the BBC 2017, but it makes the stakes higher. It makes it even more heartbreaking that she has got her hair cut off because it just looks so bad. So I liked that aspect actually. Let's talk about Meg. In the BBC 2017 version, Meg is very good and very kind. And I really like how Willa Fitzgerald plays this role. She plays her so well. I love her version of Meg. She's delightful. The only problem is she doesn't really have opportunity to show more sides of Meg. Meg has an extreme like vanity problem. She really cares about what other people think. I mean, that's a struggle that a lot of people have. It's very relatable. She really wants to be rich, and she wants to be wealthy, and she wants to be beautiful in every area, and she wants to fit in with the higher classes, and it doesn't work out for her. So we don't really see that in the BBC 2017. We do see that in the 1994. So I do like that we get more sides to Meg. In the 1994 version, the second half of the film, we almost see nothing of Meg. Like nothing. Like we see a few glimpses like, oh, she's pregnant or, you know, but we hardly see anything. Whereas in the BBC 2017, we see her, like there's a whole birthing scene, which is really empowering. We see her with her kids. We see her trying to make jam and struggling. And there's a whole chapter in the book about Meg's housekeeping problems and issues. And so that's really fun. It's fun to get to see Meg kind of struggling in this new life of hers. It's very relatable. And we also see Meg with her family when Beth is dying, and I really appreciated that. In the 1994 version, after Meg gets married, we basically don't see her. We see her for one quick scene, and it almost feels like two sisters have died. Beth has died and Meg has died because we never see her. Not only that in the 1994, but the actresses have switched for Amy. So it feels like Amy has died. So we only have Joe left. It's a tragic loss in my opinion. And I really like that about the BBC 2017. We still see Meg lots, we still see Amy lots, and it's the same actress for Amy. All right, let's talk about Beth. I love how in the BBC 2017 version, we see that Beth's shyness is most likely rooted in anxiety. So we see her trying to go out of the house, to go play the piano at Mr. Lawrence's, like she's been invited, but like 3 times or 2 times she can't make it because she's just too scared and too nervous. So I really like that we got to see that more complex side of Beth that isn't really explained in the novel, and it's not in the 1994 version. So I really liked that. Beth in the BBC 2017 version is not always perfectly sweet, like she is in the novel and like she is in the 1994 version. She gets angry at one point. She snaps at Joe because Joe is telling her to stop playing Land of the Delisle on the piano. She's saying, "Why are you playing that song?" And Beth snaps and she goes, "Because it's Father and Marmee's favorite." And she kind of just snaps. And I like that we got to see that because Beth is not completely perfect. She's upset. She is in a difficult place. And she's doing something that means a lot to her, and she's being told to stop. No, she's going to keep going. So I like that we see a bit of fight in Beth. She's in a perfectly safe place where she knows all these people, so it makes sense that she would fight back a bit. Ultimately, though, Claire Danes just is Beth. Like, her spirit is Beth. Her essence is Beth. She just is Beth. There's something about her. And I really liked the other actor's portrayal of Beth too. Like, she was wonderful. I really liked her. But there's just something about Claire Danes in the 1994 version that she just is Beth. All right, let's talk about Amy, the last of the March sisters. So in the 1994 version, Amy is played by 2 actresses, a younger Amy and an older Amy. We've got Kirsten Dunst as the younger Amy. In the BBC 2017, it's 1 actress the whole movie. Now, I love it in the BBC 2017 that there's only 1 actress. Like I said earlier, it feels like Amy has died when we move to an older actress. It just doesn't seem like Amy. It doesn't work. But that being said, my favorite Amy so far is Kirsten Dunst. She just is. She works so well as Amy. She captures the innocence, the girliness, the desire to fit in. She's great. We're on her side. We're sympathizing with her right from the beginning. She's not just a stupid little brat. In the BBC 2017 version, Catherine Norton, I believe her name is? Yes, or Catherine Newton. Catherine Newton looks the part. She's a little bit older, so she plays Amy all the way through. The problem I have is that Catherine Newton plays the role with a knowingness. So when she's angry or frustrated, such as when she burns Joe's manuscript, that calm knowingness makes her seem evil. And Amy is not evil. At the end, when she is interacting with Laurie, that calm knowingness seems like she's a seductress. And Amy is not a seductress. So, I mean, I thought ultimately it was okay, but it just wasn't Amy for me. Now, when Amy and Laurie get together, Amy is very hesitant in the book and the 1994 version to marry Laurie because she sees that he's become this philanderer and she's having none of it. And she doesn't want him to like her just because she's a March. She wants him to like her for her. So she kind of attacks this. Whereas in the BBC 2017, we don't really see this. We just see them fall in love suddenly and get together. So they just didn't spend enough time on that, I think. Basically, with the BBC 2017 version, what happened is that the first half of Little Women basically got 2 parts, 2 episodes on the BBC 2017, whereas the second half, also called Good Wives, which was actually the sequel to the original Little Women, that only gets 1 part in the BBC 2017. And I think this series really needed to be a 4-part miniseries so that we get 2 episodes for each half of Little Women, for Little Women and Good Wives. Okay, let's talk about Laurie now. Okay, Laurie and Joe have one of the best meet cutes ever in the 1994. She almost, she's backing out of the ballroom. Beyond this curtain, she just is going to sit down in the nearest chair that she knows is behind her, and Laurie's already sitting in it. And it is so funny how she jumps up and oh my goodness, she's all shocked and so embarrassed. And it's a great moment. It's such a great moment that it makes us want Joe and Laurie to always be together forever and ever and ever. And of course, that is not the story. So it's almost too perfect of a moment for them. In the BBC 2017, they don't have a perfect moment like that. And so it's a little less tragic when they don't end up together. When Joe ends up with Professor Bear, we can kind of believe it a bit more. So Yeah, but it is a great scene. And then when they're dancing up and down in the back rooms, I love that. It's so good, but it's just too perfect. It's funny because when I was a kid, I did not like Christian Bale as Laurie in the 1994 version. I really didn't I don't know why. I mean, he does do a lot of whisper acting, but when I rewatched it today, I was like, he's amazing. Like obviously he's a really good actor. And even back then he was a really good actor. And he just has that playfulness down. Like he teases Joe in such a wonderful way. In the BBC 2017, Laurie is just so different. He doesn't tease as much, but you can really see his kindness and his care for Joe, and you can see that he falls for her right from the beginning. Now, in the 1994 version, Laurie gets a better character arc because when Joe rejects him, he becomes a philandering drunk. Like, he's just with women all the time. He's not living into the person that he wants to be. He's trying to numb his pain. And Amy calls him on that. So he gets a better character arc. Whereas he doesn't really get that in the 2017. They didn't have time for that, which is why they needed that extra part. We just kind of see him with, being sad or upset or whatever in London or Europe, wherever he was. And then he just falls in love with Amy and it's all better. Laurie's proposal in the 1994 version of Little Women is so gut-wrenching. It is like, oh, like you just want them to be together, and it's just so heartbreaking how his heart is broken. Now, I think one reason why the scene wasn't quite as gut-wrenching in the BBC 2019 is that he's already been sharing his feelings, and Joe has already been saying, like, no, this isn't going to work, no, no, no. So it's a bit like the air has been let out of the balloon a little bit. Now, that's actually more true to the book than what happens in the 1994 version, but I think theatrically, the 1994 version, that's actually just a better, more dramatic arc. Marmee. Marmee is so strong in the BBC 2017 version. Emily Watson plays her brilliantly, and the screenplay does a brilliant job of portraying Marmee. Like, you see her anger. You see that she still struggles with her anger. Like, when she finds out that her husband is wounded, she snaps at Joe. When Joe just asks a simple question, she snaps at her because she's just like, I can't take these questions. And then they include the chapter from the book. They include that scene where Marmee is telling Joe about her anger and telling how she's angry every day of her life, but that she's learning to control that anger. And that's such a great chapter from the book, and it's not in the 1994 version at all, which kind of makes Marmee seem just a bit too sweet and perfect. The scene in the BBC 2017 where Marmee finds out that Beth is dying is gut-wrenching. I cried so hard. It is like when she's saying that she could picture Meg and Joe and Amy's lives when they were growing up, but she never could picture Beth's life. It's like she knew that Beth wasn't going to make it past her young adulthood. It's like she already had a premonition or knew that. And then it's heartbreaking when she said, I can't protect her, I can't help her, Beth is going on ahead of me. It's just, oh my goodness. One thing that I do like about the 1994 Marmee is that Marmee, she expresses a lot of these feminist thoughts, like corsets are not good, like girls should be running around outside just like boys. Why does Laurie get to vote and we don't? Well, because Laurie's a man. Laurie can own property, but you can't because you're a woman. And it's like, I like how she expresses all this, not with bitterness, but just with like educating them. Like, this is an unjust part of our culture, of our society, but that's how it is. We need to change it. But she talks about that injustice. She doesn't say, oh, well, it's okay, your husband will vote for you. John Brooke. John Brooke is the one who marries Meg. Now, in the BBC 2017, it is extremely romantic and extremely sweet. In the 1994 version, it's just a little bit weird and gross. And part of it is the way Joe treats it. Joe, in the 2017 version, she dislikes the idea of Meg being taken away in marriage. She doesn't like that idea. She wants everything to stay the same. But she has nothing against John Brooke, personally. Whereas in the 1994, Joe not only hates the idea of Meg getting married at all, she hates John Brooke. So it makes it harder to enjoy that romance when the character who you're kind of following their lead on how they're feeling about other characters, when they dislike that character. Yeah, we just got more of John Brooke in the 2017 version, which I thought was great. Like, we see him as a father. We see him in Washington taking care of Marmee and Mr. March. We see him in war, which adds a heroic aspect to him. We respect him. He's not just Meg's love interest. In the 1994 version, he's more prim and scolding. All right, Professor Bear. Professor Bear and Joe, they do have a meet cute as well in the 1994 version. They run into each other, her pages of writing start spilling everywhere on the streets, and they quickly gather them up. So it is cute, but it's not as good as Joe and Laurie's meet cute. It doesn't quite conquer that. The major roadblock for me in buying this romance between Joe and Professor Bear in the 1994 version is that Gabriel Byrne as Professor Bear is just so much older. Like, he acts the role beautifully. He plays Professor Bear wonderfully, but he's just so much older. And especially when I was a kid, I was just totally grossed out and freaked out by it. Now when I'm older, I'm like, okay, I'm overlooking it, and it is really beautiful. Like, he does such an amazing job of that role. He just is a little bit too old. Now in the BBC 2017, Professor Bear is the right age, and he's very sweet, and I really like him. He's great. But we hardly get to see him at all, which is why we need that extra episode in there. And we need to get more of Joe and Professor Bear and more of Amy and Laurie. But yeah, I thought he was great. I just, more. Like, at one point they talk about going to like a philosophy meeting or like a philosophy talk, or I can't remember exactly. They're going to hear someone speak. And we don't get to see them. We get to see them on the way there. Like, they talk about philosophy on the way there. So we get some development there, but we don't get to see them at the meeting, and I would have loved to see them at the meeting. In the 1994, they go to the opera, and that's a beautiful scene where, you know, the singers are on the stage singing about their love for each other, and Professor Bear is translating it to Joe, and he's saying, my heart, or your heart understood mine, and he's saying it like, your heart understood mine. Like, he's actually saying it to Joe, even though he's translating. And it's really beautiful to see how the singers are singing what Joe and Bear are feeling. So it's a great scene, and I wish there would have been something like that in the BBC 2017 version. Okay, let's just talk soundtracks real quick. In the 1994 version, the theme song, the main theme, is so beautiful. Like, it just makes me want to cry. It's so good. I love it. Like, play it, like, find it on YouTube. It's there. It's so good. I love it. But I love the BBC 2017 soundtrack too, because it's quirky. It's kind of fun. It finds the feeling of what they're feeling. Like, they're out there playing in the snow, and they just have like this like fun, quirky music going. And it's still historically accurate. So I really like that too. Cinematography. The cinematography in the BBC 2017 is beautiful. It's gorgeous. It's a work of art. Like, it's so beautiful the way they have it, the way the lighting is, the way they have it filmed, the way they have it edited together. In the 1994 version, you really don't even notice the cinematography. So, I mean, it kind of depends on how you feel. Do you like that beautiful visual element, or do you not even want to notice it and just follow the story? So it depends on what you like. I'm not sure which one I prefer. I really thought the cinematography was gorgeous and I loved it, but maybe I was more deeply immersed in the 1994 version. I don't know. I'm not sure. Okay, one thing that the BBC 2017 version did that I loved is that they had the Camp Lawrence scene. So they're all out boating with their friends from England, and there's a great moment where the one, what's her last name? One of the Vaughns, Miss Vaughn, she says to Meg, and she's like, she finds out that Meg is a governess, and she's like, oh, you must be learning that from your governess. And she's like, oh, Meg says, no, I actually am a governess. And just that shock of like, oh my goodness, like, and then John Brooke and Meg have a bonding moment there. So that's really sweet. Okay, the play acting in the 1994 version is so fun. It's so great. Furthers the characters, furthers their relationship with Laurie. It's wonderful. In the BBC 2017 version, they don't really have that at all, and I didn't miss it, to be honest. I didn't even notice it wasn't there until afterwards when my friend mentioned it, and I was like, that's totally okay. They're just different. They just took those parts of the story in different directions, and I like that they had the freedom to do that. In the modern retelling version that came out in 2018, there's a huge emphasis on the play acting, and I don't think it works because of the time change, because of it being in our day instead of in the 1860s. It just doesn't work, in my opinion. Now, it wouldn't be one of my videos if I didn't talk about war. If there's war in a book, I talk about it because it is a subject that fascinates me. So this takes place during the American Civil War, of course, and we do see some of it in the 1994 version. In one scene, Marmee and Meg are rolling bandages. At one point, the men, like soldiers, do come back from the war, and we just kind of see from a distance some soldiers who we don't know hugging their wives or whatever. Whereas in the BBC 2017, we do get a lot more. We see Mr. March in an encampment, that was hard to say, with a dying soldier. So we get that right off the bat. We also see Marmee and John Brooke in a hospital in Washington. We hear cries of pain in the background. You know, we can imagine that maybe somebody is having an amputation being done. And we see John Brooke on the battlefield. And I thought that was a beautiful scene. And so I like that they kind of, I mean, the Civil War doesn't play a huge part in the book, but it is there. So I like that we got to see more of it. Okay, one more small minor thing. It's late at night and I'm having a hard time talking. In the BBC 2017 version, I like how the women wear the same clothes. Like they can't afford to have a new dress all the time. So they have the same bonnets, the same cloaks, the same dresses. Like they wear the same things, and that's so realistic. In the 1994 version, there's a similar thing where we see Meg at the Moffats wearing a nice blue dress, and this is her best dress that she's wearing. And the women kind of, you know, criticize it and say it's a day dress. Well, later on, like 4 years later, Amy is wearing that same dress, and she's just at home with her family wearing that same dress. So it just shows, it's like, oh, my name is Megan, wow. Meg's best dress is now Amy's kind of like, you know, just wearing it around the house. So I thought that was really interesting. Anyways, I'm probably gonna have to split this video up because there is a lot of stuff here. It is long, but that is okay because I had a lot to say. Thank you for all those who stuck around with me. I hope you're all doing well. So until next time, may you all be filled with peace, hope, love, and joy. Take care, everyone.